The gathering dread. The Grand Council chamber of the Varn Dominion was carved into a moon-sized station orbiting Gliese Prime, where light from 3 stars refracted through obsidian arches. Here, empires convened to speak of conquest, diplomacy, and extermination. Today, they spoke of Earth. High Commander Keth Var stood still as his 4 hearts beat in syncopated rhythm. His carapace shimmered a deep crimson, a subconscious sign of unease. That alone unsettled the others. Kethvar did not fear easily. A projection floated before them, a rotating image of a human construct. Even in static form, it dwarfed anything the galaxy had seen before. Their designation is UNSS Leviathan, rasped the data seer of the Kel. Mass equivalent to 0.2 moons. Housing population centers, armament systems, and unknown quantum tech. It's not a ship, it's a declaration. The council chamber murmured in clicks, purrs, and static pulses. Confusion, then disbelief, then denial. Their primitives, hissed the Altari representative, scales bristling with indignation. They only breached interstellar travel a century ago. Indeed, said Kethvar, and in that time, they've repelled 3 slave raids, reversed engineered singularity drives, and now, this. He gestured to the hologram. It zoomed in, revealing rows of kinetic launchers, energy ports glowing with contained plasma, and a single word etched across the hull in Terran script. Leviathan. We have underestimated them. The silence that followed was suffocating. 3 cycles prior, a Varn recon fleet had slipped into the Sol system under stealth, tasked with surveillance. Their last transmission was nothing but distorted audio and corrupted data. Screams, static, and then one phrase repeated in 20 languages. It looked at us. Since then, no contact, no survivors. The system was dark. The Council's arrogance fractured that day. Now they came to Kethvar, the warlord of the Outer Rim, the breaker of the Quran uprising, to do what diplomats could not, respond with force. You want me to confront them, he said, antennae twitching slowly. No, the data seer corrected. We want you to understand them. And if understanding proves impossible, ensure the threat is neutralized before others begin to see them as a symbol. That was the fear, unspoken but present. The smaller species had begun whispering of Earth not with scorn, but with hope. Humanity's defiance had become legend among the subjugated. Kethvar despised legends. Legends ignited rebellions. He turned back to the image. The Leviathan was parked near Saturn, enshrouded in an artificial magnetic storm. Its silhouette was a dagger pointed at the stars. He had studied Terran history. It was not a story of peace. It was a history of conflict layered upon conflict. Tribes, nations, world wars, cold wars, and finally unity, but only after devastation. And somehow, after all that, they had reached for the stars with clenched fists instead of open hands. Prepare my fleet, Kethvar said. Full diplomatic array, yes, but also carriers, siege-class cruisers, interceptors. You plan for war? I plan for truth, he replied. And the truth is this. A species does not build a god engine unless it fears the universe, or intends to make the universe fear them. He left the chamber without another word, his guards falling in step behind him. Behind him, the council broke into panic chatter. Threat assessments, resource reallocations, emergency war protocols. But Kethvar no longer listened. He had seen the ship. That was enough. The Leviathan wakes. Admiral Saratran stood at the heart of the Leviathan, gazing through reinforced quantum glass at the swirling storms of Saturn far below. The ship was still, peaceful, almost, but the silence was a mask. Beneath its calm exterior, the Leviathan pulsed with restrained fury. She touched the interface panel embedded in her forearm. Holographic displays bloomed in the air. Reactor temperatures, hull integrity, crew rotations, and, highlighted in red, the incoming fleet from the Varn Dominion. 72 ships. Flagship escorted by siege cruisers. Not diplomats. A show of force. They always came with fleets when they were afraid. Command, she said, voice steady. What's their ETA? For days, replied Lieutenant Mallory. They're coasting in on high silence. No transmissions since system entry. Tran nodded. No surprise. They're not here to talk. She turned back to the window. Saturn's shadow swallowed the horizon, casting the Leviathan in twilight. It was the only time the ship felt small. 10 years ago, Earth had been burning. The Battle of Europa had marked humanity's first true contact with a wider galaxy, and the moment they realized they were prey. The slaver fleet had come without warning, targeting outposts on the Jovian moons. Earth responded with everything it had: retrofitted nukes, orbital drones, and desperation. They won. Barely. A dozen ships against thousands of humans who refused to kneel. But victory came at a price. Entire colonies gone, Earth's moon scorched, and billions realizing that the universe was not waiting to welcome them. It was waiting to consume them. From the ashes, the nations of Earth did something unprecedented. They united. The United Nations became the Terran Accord. Borders dissolved. Military assets consolidated. And Project Goliath was born. The Leviathan was not just a warship. It was a world. 8 kilometers long, 3 wide, shielded by multi-phase armor, capable of withstanding direct singularity impacts. Its power core was a captured neutronium fragment stabilized by a rotating magnetic torus. 4 launch bays, each able to deploy drone squadrons and planetary assault landers. Forward-mounted rail cannons longer than skyscrapers. And deep inside its spine, a gravity well generator capable of distorting local space-time. But none of that impressed Tran more than the human heart that beat within it. Farms grew real food. Children played in artificial parks. Engineers and artists lived beside soldiers. The Leviathan wasn't just built for war. It was built to outlast it. Tran walked the main corridor, boots echoing softly on polished alloy. Around her, crew members worked in silent rhythm. Technicians adjusting grav plates, engineers calibrating sensors, Marines cleaning rifles they hoped never to use. She paused near the viewing deck. A small group of children stood at the window, pointing excitedly at Saturn's rings. One of them, a girl barely 10, saw Tran and saluted awkwardly. "Ma'am, is it true aliens are coming?" Tran knelt beside her. "Yes, they're coming." "Are they bad?" "They might be," Tran said gently. "But we're ready. That's why this ship exists." The girl nodded solemnly. "My mom says this ship's like a dragon." Tran smiled. "Your mom's smart." Back on the command deck, she activated a secure channel. "Global broadcast," she ordered. "Terran priority code." A few seconds passed. Then her voice echoed across satellites, space stations, and colonies, beamed through tight band signals and civilian networks alike. "This is Admiral Sarah Tran of the UNSS Leviathan. As of 0800 UTC, we have confirmed the arrival of a Varn Dominion fleet within Sol System. No hostile actions yet, but their posture is unmistakable. We remind all Terran colonies and citizens that this ship is fully operational, and the Accord stands united. We built Leviathan not to provoke, but to promise. Never again will we be taken. We do not seek war. But if war seeks us, we are ready." She cut the transmission and stared at the glowing star maps. Icons representing alien ships flickered toward Earth like silent daggers. Tran didn't flinch. They had survived a burning Earth. They had built a giant in the shadows of Saturn. Let the galaxy come. She would make sure it remembered why humanity was never meant to be provoked. Confrontation at Lagrange Point. The fleet emerged from slipspace like shadows bleeding into starlight. 72 Varn ships dropped into high orbit at Earth's Lagrange Point, precise, silent, and sharp-edged. Warforms bristled with grav lances and shard cannons. The fleet arranged itself into a spear formation, angled toward Earth. At its center floated the flagship crown of Logic, cold and immaculate. High Commander Kethvar stood on the bridge, mandibles tight. He could see it now. No data projection, no blurry intel reports. This was the real thing. Leviathan. Even from this distance, it dominated the void. Orbiting near the moon, the Terran warship appeared like a dormant colossus, its hull reflecting sunlight in slow pulses. 8 kilometers long, shaped like an angular fortress. Unlike Varn's ships, sleek and elegant, the Leviathan was brutally functional. It radiated intention. They built that in open orbit, one of his lieutenants asked, disbelief cracking through the calm. Yes, Kethvar said, because they wanted us to see it. The ship made no move to power weapons. No drones launched. No defensive posturing. It simply was, like a mountain watching insects gather at its base. Kethvar narrowed his eyes. They are waiting. Aboard the Leviathan, Admiral Tran studied the incoming fleet. Blue icons crawled across the tactical map like a slow-moving infection. They're not broadcasting, said Lieutenant Mallory. They want us to make the first move, Tran replied. We won't. She stepped forward. Open a channel. Full galactic frequency. No encryption. The deck officer hesitated. All species, including civilian bands. Everyone, Tran confirmed. The signal went live. Throughout the Sol system, and far beyond, receivers lit up. Spaceports, smuggler ships, military outposts, and even pirate stations all tuned in. Tran stood in her command armor, centered in the frame. I am Admiral Sarah Tran of the UNSS Leviathan. I speak on behalf of the Terran Accord. To the Dominion fleet at Lagrange Point, you are trespassing. You are not invited. Yet we offer you the dignity of peaceful dialogue. We are not a people of conquest. We are not here to dominate. She paused, letting her voice harden. We built this ship so that no one would ever try to dominate us again. Make your choice. You will not get a second warning. She nodded, and the channel closed. For a moment, silence reclaimed the void. Aboard the Crown of Logic, Kethvar felt something strange, a flicker of heat in his chest. Not anger, not fear, respect. The transmission rippled across the fleet. Even alien captains, raised to see humans as backwater vermin, could not ignore the weight behind those words. No bluster, no threats, only certainty. And then the worst thing happened. One of his junior captains, eager to prove superiority, broke formation. The Veil Piercer, a light assault vessel, surged forward toward the Leviathan. Kethvar snapped a command into the fleet channel. Recall that ship. Now. But it was too late. The Leviathan responded. No weapons fired. No projectiles launched. Instead, space bent. The Veil Piercer jerked to a halt mid-flight, dead stop from thousands of kilometers per second. In an instant, its engines overloaded, inertial buffers failed, and the ship crumpled like a tin pod under pressure. The Leviathan had used its gravity well projector to catch the ship in a localized space-time net, locking it in place without firing a single shot. Kethvar stared in stunned silence as the crippled vessel drifted, its crew unconscious or dead. Not destruction, demonstration. Every screen in the fleet now showed a repeating message. This is restraint. The words burned like ice. Kethvar inhaled slowly. He understood now. The humans were not posturing. They had built a god machine and leashed it. Back aboard the Leviathan, Admiral Tran folded her arms. Status of the Dominion fleet? She asked. Still holding formation, Mallory said. No new moves. They're thinking, she replied. Let them. A murmur spread through the command deck. For the first time in recorded history, a Varn fleet had been halted without bloodshed. Across the galaxy, species that had lived under Dominion rule for centuries received the message. On fringe worlds, rebels replayed the footage. On conquered planets, whispers turned into roars. If humans could stop the Varn, maybe others could stand too. And in orbit, the Leviathan simply waited. The message that changed the stars. The Dominion fleet withdrew at dawn. Not with missiles, not with glory, with silence. One by one, the 72 warships rotated on precision thrusters, their drives flaring in unison as they slipped into the cold cradle of slipspace. The Crown of Logic was the last to depart, pausing for several minutes in orbit, as if waiting for something. A decision, a memory. Then it too vanished, leaving only empty sky and the ever-present silhouette of the Leviathan. On the command deck, Admiral Sarah Tran exhaled slowly. No casualties, no shots fired, said Lieutenant Mallory, disbelief soft in his voice. Tran nodded. That's the war we wanted. No one wins a war like that, another officer said. Tran didn't answer immediately. She stared at the star map, now clear of hostile signatures. But far beyond Seoul, new signals were flaring. Encrypted messages, rebel transmissions, whispered calls for aid. Hope had escaped its cage. Maybe not, she said. But they remember who fired first. And they'll remember who didn't have to. 3 days later, the Galactic Conclave, long a puppet forum under Dominion control, held its largest emergency session in centuries. For the first time, human representatives were invited to attend. They arrived not in the Leviathan, but aboard a small diplomatic vessel. No weapons, no escort, only 2 delegates and 1 translator AI. The gesture was intentional and terrifying. Earth sends no warship, the conclave speaker murmured, nervously eyeing the newcomers. Only people. Delegate Javier Han stood calmly before the assembly. We came because the galaxy needs to understand one thing, he said. Earth is not interested in conquest, but we are not prey. He tapped a small device. A hologram projected above him. Footage of the Leviathan, motionless, beautiful, deadly. Then the disabled veil piercer, captured in the grip of a gravity well and lowered gently into deceleration. Not shattered, spared. 100 species watched in silence. We don't want war, Han said, but we've already lived through our own apocalypse. We buried billions under burning skies. There is nothing you can do to us that we have not already survived. So if war comes again, we will not fear it, and we will not lose. His words rippled like a gravitational wave through every comm relay. In the rim worlds, resistance movements replayed the speech on loop. In slaver stations, operatives slipped into shadows. On mining colonies, workers stood taller. And in the Dominion's inner courts, High Commander Kethvar submitted a formal report. Recommendation: cease direct conflict. Open limited diplomatic channels. Reallocate military resources to internal stabilization. Beneath it, he added a single private line. We thought we were gods. They reminded us we are not. Back in Sol orbit, the Leviathan remained stationed near the moon, its systems now in low power, still watchful. Tran walked the lower decks where families lived, where engineers tinkered with irrigation systems and kids played zero-G soccer in converted cargo bays. The ship was massive, but down here it was a community. She paused at a window overlooking Earth. Green, blue, scarred, yes, but alive. 10 years ago, they had huddled under alien fire. Now, they stood at the edge of galactic change. Not because they were powerful, but because they endured. Her comm pinged. Ma'am, said Mallory, we're receiving requests. Hundreds of them. Border colonies, trade envoys. Refugees, some want alliances. Others want asylum. Tran's reply was soft. Good. Now the real work begins. In the coming weeks, humanity's role changed faster than anyone could predict. Earth became a neutral hub for fractured factions. The Leviathan, once a symbol of war, was reclassified as a peacekeeping vessel. It still bristled with weaponry, but now docked in orbit above a growing station ring where alien ships came not to fight, but to talk. Treaties were signed. Borders were redrawn. And in the dark between stars, the whispers grew louder. The humans built a monster. Then they taught it to wait. Epilogue. Years later, a child born on a far-rim colony would ask her mother, "Is it true Earth has a ship that can move stars?" And her mother would smile, not with fear, but awe. No, child. Earth has something more dangerous. Earth has memory, and they'll never let the galaxy forget what they became when the stars came hunting. High above, beyond her vision, the Leviathan turned slowly in its orbit, silent, eternal, and watching.